Hey soldiers, one country in particular is preparing for a devastating winter that may include social upheaval. Now look, we've talked about this before on the channel, how these energy issues are starting to come to the fore. It's fine to, be all green and you're going to slap sanctions on you and do all of this in July, okay, when no one is facing death from cold temperatures. But Germany is now saying, you know what, we've been pretty optimistic in our talk thus far, but now we're getting closer to reality based on these energy issues that most of which are of their own making. So let's get into it. Germany preparing for emergency cash deliveries, bank runs, and, quote, aggressive discontent, unquote, ahead of winter power cuts. Now, look, I really hope that something occurs because, look, we're talking about these leaders go out here and make these decisions. We're talking about the German people like you and me who just, want to live their lives and are not power hungry and hell bent on some crazy ass agenda. Okay, these are the people that we're speaking of. And before anybody says, well, they put them in power, look, over here in the United States, look at the people that are in power in our situation. And, most of us, apparently most, put them there. Like, look, Mitch McConnell, he got his seat back. All right. So it's the same power structure that looks like it's staying locked in place and doing things that are detrimental to the lives and personal economies of the people of their own countries. While Europe has been keeping a generally optimistic tone, optimistic facade rather, ahead of the coming cold winter, signaling that it has more than enough gas in storage to make up for losses of Russian supply, even in the, quote, coldest case, unquote, scenario. Behind the scenes, Europe's largest economy is quietly preparing for a worst case scenario, which includes angry mobs and bank runs should blackouts prevent the population from accessing cash. Serious stuff, right? Stuff you never want to see in any country. Let's go on. As Reuters reports, citing 4 sources, German authorities have stepped up preparations for emergency cash deliveries in case of a blackout, or rather blackouts, to keep the economy running as the nation braces for possible power cuts from the war in Ukraine. Let's get it straight here. These power cuts have to do with the sanctions that Germany is involved in as a NATO nation, furthering onto the Russian energy supply. We've been over it a lot. Russia was responsible for about 12% of global oil supply. Okay, responsible for a larger percentage of natural gas flowing into Europe, specifically Germany. So they're in quite a pickle now, so to speak. This is going to cause potentially folk to take to the streets. And these politicians definitely don't want that. The plans include a Bundesbank hoarding, the Bundesbank, that's their central bank, hoarding extra billions to cope with a surge in demand. And why would they see a demand surge in cash? Well, because when people start to feel as though your society is falling apart, they start to lose faith and they want to grab their cash so that if they need to spend it on, say, firewood, okay, to stay alive, then they'll have the ability to do that without running down to the local bank. Now, the German people have faced a crisis of this nature before, so it's well within their history. The grandmom, maybe older than that, great grandmom, told stories about the Weimar Republic when their inflation was just, crazy. And then that post-World War II period. I used to have a friend, she's still my friend. I haven't seen her in many years. Silke. Silke's from Germany, and Silke went through, she was a little girl when Germany came out of World War II. And she remembers the times of scarcity and that sort of thing. So this is something that's embedded in the culture over there. And so they're worried that, they're going to be facing bank runs. One of the other reasons for this is they're saying they could place limits on withdrawals. Now, who else is doing that? These crypto folks, these crypto exchanges are limiting or out and out telling you cannot withdraw your funds right now, all due to FTX. We did a video on that. And if you think crypto investors are angry when they can't access their digital tokens in a bankrupt exchange, just wait until you see Germans whose cash has been locked out. Officials and banks are looking not only at origination, i.e. money printing, but also distribution, discussing, for example, priority fuel access for cash transporters. Really got a hell of a contingency going here, according to other sources commenting on preparations that accelerated in recent weeks. Now, what we can hope for, what the German people, I'm sure, are hoping for, is a mild winter. Now, any government is going to want to play down the potential for this sort of thing to happen. But the fact of the matter is all governments have contingencies for such failures in terms of power, communications, any kind of commerce, okay, or transportation. So they've got contingencies for that. But if these problems last long enough, it does lead to societal discontent because most people expect their governments to, take care of the background things, even though governments are increasingly involved in foreground things. And when you're sitting there with your kids and you're all bundled up in your home and you can't get power to heat that home, that becomes a serious issue. And as you look at the faces of your children and your wife as their lips start to turn blue, you got to have somebody to blame. And that turns into the government. And before you know it, there are folks roaming through the streets with pitchforks, and they're possibly becoming organized. Okay, so that is the danger here that governments recognize. Now, they could just carry it like America and just say, hey, we don't give a damn about how you feel. In Canada as well. You come out to protest, even if you are freezing in your home, we're going to quash it. We're going to crush it. Okay, Tiananmen Square style. Now, everything I can find says that Germany is going to experience a mild winter. However, this is weather we're talking about. And one job that you can keep, even if you're wrong routinely, is being a weather forecaster. So, and the further out you try to forecast it, the worse it gets. All it takes is one cold snap for a week or so, and, you could have a big problem. The larger issue here is the willful destruction of Western society. Think about this. Germany is the wealthiest, most technologically advanced country in Europe. And they are experiencing this. Why? Because of bad policy, bad energy policy. They've got this mindset like our politicians in America where we're going to outsource our energy needs, something so vital, because we're so green. So let a country over here do it, even though they're on the same planet, right? Makes a lot of sense, right? Okay, some perspective. Back in 2020, when that whole thing occurred, Germans withdrew $20 billion more euros than they deposited. So it went off pretty much without a hitch back then, but there's a level of complexity here. And again, this is why when these governments start monkeying around with the power infrastructure, there's a domino effect. If you don't have power, if you got these roving blackouts in the dead of winter, people are not going to be able to access ATM machines. Further, no bank is going to want to let you into their doors if their security system is not powered. And what will they be able to do when you get in there? This isn't 1820. They've got computers running everything. It takes electricity to open the vault door. So there's pretty much nothing a bank could do in a situation where there's a blackout. Now look, about a decade ago, Germany commissioned a report to try to look at exactly what would happen in this situation. And I want you to understand, again, Germany is a wealthy country. Germany is an enlightened country and a technologically advanced country, okay? But all of this stuff that we're so erudite and we're so, enlightened, when the lights are on, let them stay off long enough and things change. I've seen this, actually. It got to a point where after a storm hit the area where I live in, back when I was a firefighter, volunteer firefighter, after a week, man, people were pissed. And the tone was a little different. So I looked at that and said, what if this was a month? It'd be a completely different situation. So they commissioned that report, and they found that, and this was a parliamentary report, they found, and a decade ago, okay, that aggressive altercations would occur in case citizens were unable to get their hands on cash in a blackout. Translation: in the case of cash withdrawal halts, German society may very well tear itself apart. And that is not unique to Germany, okay? That is any society, all right? The German people just paid for the report, but you can best believe all governments have that type of data on hand to substantiate the fact that people would go absolutely mad if A, they cannot heat their homes in winter, B, they can't get cash out of the bank in order to buy food or do whatever it is they need to do. Because you ain't coming to work if the office buildings are on low power. They're going to run this thing like they did back in 2020 where, why are you coming to work in a building where the elevator doesn't work? Okay. Again, where the, garage door doesn't work. So everything's powered by this wonderful phenomenon called electricity. Now, just yesterday, we had a discussion again about the central bank digital currency. Will this be another one of those little catalysts behind that whole philosophy? If a blackout struck, one option for policymakers could be to limit the amount of cash individuals withdraw, said one of the people familiar with the wranglings around this issue. Needless to say, that would be a very bad option for Germany and for fiat currency in general. After all, if the FTX bankruptcy is a black eye for crypto, what can one say about fiat if one of the world's most advanced economies limited access to their citizens' cash? The Bundesbank, again, that's their Federal Reserve, equivalent, processes cash moving through Germany's shops in the economy, removing fakes, keeping circulation orderly. Its massive stocks make it ready for any spike in demand, stocks being stocks of cash. This is interesting. One weakness that they have observed is in the cash transportation industry. This is going to be another reason or excuse to implement a CBDC, because transporting cash is a bad thing, right? They're saying that one of the weaknesses they've exposed is the fact that firms transporting money from the central bank to ATMs and banks would experience disruptions in that capability. The industry, which includes banks, which includes Brinks and Loomis, I'm sure you've seen their trucks all around, is not fully covered by law guiding priority access to fuel and telecommunications during a blackout. So they can't just jump in line. They don't have that ability in law for now. I'm sure they're working on correcting that right now. There are big loopholes. This is according to Andreas Pollock, BDGW director. Armored vehicles would have to line up at gas stations like everyone else. The organization hosted a meeting last week with central bank officials and lawmakers to press its case. Okay, we must preventatively tackle the realistic scenario of a blackout. It would be totally naive to not talk about that at this time. And when they say a blackout to me means a prolonged blackout. Okay, rolling blackouts like we have in California, that green, utopia, those are like brief. But they're talking about like something extended here. So how bad could it get? Well, more than 40% of Germans fear a blackout in the next 6 months, according to a survey last week published by one of the companies over there. It's in German, I can't pronounce it. And since at least one blackout is virtually assured in the coming months, that means a stampede to the nearest ATM, something the local financial infrastructure will be unlikely to be able to handle. And in a confidence-inspiring message, the German equivalent of the Department of Homeland Security is saying, hey, keep some cash at home. And some of the politicians over there sticking their head in the sand and kind of denying that this is even a possibility. At times, politics can get in the way of blackout planning. In Frankfurt, Germany's banking capital, one city council member proposed requiring the city to present a blackout plan by November 17th. The politician, Markus Fuchs, of the right-wing AfD party, told the council it would be irresponsible not to plan for one. But the other parties rejected the proposal, accusing Fuchs and his party of inciting panic. So they sound like the same people who laughed at Donald Trump when he told them in front of the UN, he told Germany, look, you guys are too dependent on Russia. You got to diversify your energy generation sources because you're too dependent. They laughed at him. So they're sticking their head in the sand again. Poor Germany. Fuchs later said in a telephone interview, if we found a solution for world peace, it would be rejected. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. So, yeah, this is what's going on, people. And look, as we go further down this rabbit hole of cutting off our noses to spite our faces with this energy fanaticism, with the green fanaticism, we are going to realize more problems like this. So here in the United States, we're going to have a problem with affordability. Germany's having a problem with availability. And that's going to look like lights out. Back to the dark ages. That's what these politicians are resigning the world to. And look, you can say what you want for all you crypto guys out there. How's that supposed to work without power exactly? And I'm being serious with that. Explain that to me. I'm not being facetious. I'm not being rhetorical. I want to know. Now, going back and watch that video we did about programmable money, because this situation we just talked about is going to be another, little check mark on the items. Look, this is going on. We can prevent this. Trust me, okay? They're crafting that message now. So you need to know what programmable money, CBDCs, are all about. And guess what? The United States of America is working on implementing them right now. And it's bad news. Watch the video to find out more. Guys, I will talk to you soon.